Hi there, my name is Arden. Welcome to my channel, and today we have a very special video. It is the January wrap-up in which I'm gonna talk about the books that I've read this month. And it is a very special video because I've set a personal record for most books read in a month, and that is 12 books. I've never read 12 books in a month, which is crazy to me. Let's get into the video, shall we? So I have prepared myself some tea because we're gonna be here for a while. First I'm gonna talk about all the books that I read, and I'm gonna go in the specific order that I read them in, and then I'm gonna also discuss them. Just give you a bit of a review, what I thought, and whether or not you should finish it or who would I recommend it to. The first book that I read this month is A Journal of the Plague Year by Daniel Defoe. Now, this book is the third book I read about the plague, and it wasn't bad, it wasn't my favorite, but I kind of liked it. Now, to understand this book, you have to understand that it was written by a person living in 1665, which was the year the Great Plague came to London. Each chapter talked about a different topic. One was about merchants, one was about how they buried the corpses, one was about what person did what, and you know, it's so like every single chapter was on a different topic, which is so interesting to see how people reacted. And that's the reason why I started reading this book, because I was interested how people reacted when tragedy came upon them. Now, I did feel like there was something lacking, and I did feel like some chapters were just quite boring, to be honest. And so I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars, but I would recommend it to anyone who is interested in reading books about the plague. The second book I read this year is Words in Deep Blue by Cass Crowley, and that book is so good. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, and if I hadn't implemented a stricter rating system, I would have given it 5 out of 5 stars because this book is so beautiful. Okay, this story is really complicated, but 3 years prior to the beginning of this story, Rachel and Henry, the main characters, used to be best friends. On the day Rachel moved, she wrote him a love letter, saying that she is in love with him and that he's the one, and that he should contact her before she left, before she moved to another city. So basically, Henry never replied, never did anything, and so she left and they stopped talking eventually. So 3 years later, Rachel comes back and is grieving the loss of her brother, and so she comes back to the city. She needs to find a job, and it just happens that she finds a job at Henry's father's business, which is a bookstore. So they reconnect in a way, but she's not happy about it because she still resents him for not replying to that letter of hers and for choosing this other girl, Amy, over her, which Rachel doesn't like. And then Amy just so happens to break up with him at the same time when Rachel returns to the city. And so Henry is dealing with a breakup, and he is, you know, really mad at Rachel for not talking to him all this time, and it's just like, it's this whole thing. And you should really read this book because it talks about grief, it talks about friendship, it talks about love. It's so beautiful, and it has this concept of letters and a letter library, I think it's called. I think so. And it's one of those books that just makes you feel so much. And even though it's not perfect, I dislike Henry, but it's just one of those books that you can just ignore the main character and be like, wow, I love the story so much. So I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book we have is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. So because I love Sarah J Maas, she's my favorite author, I had high expectations for A Court of Frost and Starlight. I do have a tattoo of the Night Court on my arm that I'm not going to show you right now because it's freezing. And so I'm in love with this series so much. I love it so much. It's one of my favorites. A Court of Mist and Fury is my favorite book. And so I thought, oh, A Court of Frost and Starlight, it's going to be good. It's going to talk about Nesta, and it's going to talk about Elaine. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing these names right, okay? And so I thought, oh, this is gonna be so cute. We're gonna get a new story, and the novella is gonna be so good. But when I started reading it, I just realized, oh, we're not done with Rhys and Feyre yet. A lot of the content inside was so unnecessary, but I know right now I'm thinking, okay, this might be a bridge to more books. I feel like it was written just for the sake of publishing it rather than being written because Sarah J. Maas wanted to write the story. It's just I expected so much more, but I am excited to read more about Elaine and other characters, because I never thought I would say this, but it is something I am really looking forward to. So I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars. Next we have Flight or Fright by Stephen King and Bev Vincent. Now this book is a collection of scary stories about flying from several authors, including Stephen King and Bev Vincent, and you know, some of them come from a supernatural background, some of them are just like kind of scary, and I did not quite like this book. Some stories were boring, some were nice, some were just I didn't really like it, so I rated it 2 out of 5 stars. Book number 5, and this is the only book I rated 5 out of 5 stars, and that is Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Before I start talking about this book, I have to say that I've had it for years and years, collecting dust on my bookshelf. I did give it a chance a couple of years ago, but I only finished the first few chapters, and then I moved on to other fancier books. And yes, I never finished it, but then the movie came out, and so I decided, oh my gosh, I need to watch this. And once I watched the movie, I cried so much. I loved it so much, and the movie was a masterpiece, so I decided that I need to read this book this year. And so I did pick it up, and I found it one of the best books I've ever read. I don't know how to explain the character development. In the first chapter, the main character was so annoying, but as we progressed through the story, through the book, I just found that she is amazing. Like, I just love her so much. I found that the story was very well written and thought out, and the attention to details was amazing, and Lauren Oliver, this is one of her best works yet. Oh my gosh, it came out a couple of years ago, but you know what I mean. Like, I read Delirium and I thought, okay, not bad. It's a good series, but Before I Fall, definitely better. Book number 6. The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. Now, this is the first book I read by Alexandra Bracken. Somewhere over there are Passenger and The Darkest Minds, and I still haven't read them, but I did give The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding a go. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, which is more like 4.5 for me now as I look back. But The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding is unlike anything I've read before. It started slow. The more I read it, the more I needed to know what was gonna happen next, and I found it was a magical read. Like, I genuinely enjoyed this book, and so I am excited to read more Alexandra Bracken's books. Book number 7 is The Isle of the Lost by Melissa de la Cruz. Now, this is a kind of a companion novel to Descendants, the movies, Disney movies. Yes, you guessed it. Or maybe the movies were filmed after the books. I'm not sure, and I did not do enough research to tell you which one it is. But the books, I rated this book 2 out of 5 stars because it was a mess. Now, I don't want to say anything bad about the author because I know she's done a lot of successful things, but this book, I felt like it was kind of lacking on all fronts. When it came to friendship, when it came to general progression of the story, I felt like we didn't have any plot twists, we didn't have anything that would keep me interesting, at least. I mean, it is a book, but nothing really happens. Nothing interesting, nothing important. So yeah, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Book number 8 is Instant Wicca Magic, 17 Potent Spells for Love, Money, and Healing. And yes, I'm looking at my computer screen to read that title because it's long. Now, that book is by Sylvia Shorewood, and it was a lovely read. It only scratched the surface of Wicca, which is something I'm really interested in. I am looking forward to reading more books. I kind of only started reading it because of the basic stuff for Wicca. Now, book number 9 is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. Now, if you want a book that is gonna keep you on your toes so much that you cannot sleep at night, this is the book to go with. This book is so good. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars, but now that I think about it, it's more like 4 out of 5 stars. But basically, it's told from a perspective of Elizabeth Frankenstein. She is a girl who was taken in by the Frankensteins to keep an eye on their son Victor and be his friend. And now Victor, he is an unusual boy. He's a psychopath, basically, but Elizabeth realizes that she is expendable to his parents. If she doesn't do a good job, they're gonna get rid of her, so she tries to make herself inexpendable, is that even a word, to Victor, and become his friend and, you know, do everything for him and make him happy so that she, you know, she can stay and be safe, which is everything to her. He likes hurting people, he likes hurting animals, and Elizabeth cannot tell anyone about this, and she tries to cover up for him. So Elizabeth tries to hide from the truth and doesn't really want to believe, you know, that Victor is a monster. Well, she does believe it, but she ignores it, I guess. The story starts when Victor leaves his home to go study abroad, and he stops sending letters to Elizabeth, who gets worried, and, you know, she doesn't get along with his dad that much, and so she tries to bring Victor back and secure her place in the family. And by doing so, she, you know, stumbles upon Victor's secret and his monster. Certain other things start happening, and she has to deal with her past and Victor's real personality. So it's interesting. Just read it. It's interesting. Book number 10 is Hex by Michelle Chris. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Okay, I rated this book 2 out of 5 stars, and that is because I thought it was a mess. Keep in mind, this book was published in 2014, and so in 2014, a lot of things in this book were very popular, like the cheerleader stereotype, you know, the bad boys and all that. There was a lot of cliches, the story was rushed, there were certain parts in the story that needed to be longer and, you know, that could have such an impact on the main character but weren't explored enough, or just were brushed off or cut short. And I felt on multiple occasions this book had so much potential, and there were so many storylines and ways this story could go to, and it's just a waste. I enjoyed a part of it, I guess, but it wasn't my cup of tea. But keep in mind, the 15-year-old me would be living for it. So it wasn't my cup of tea. It might be yours, but it seemed like a mess to me. So yeah. Book number 11, and probably one of my favorite books of January, one of the top highest favorites, is Last Sacrifice by Rochelle Mead. This is the last book in the Vampire Academy series, and this is the book in which Rose has to deal with a scandal, basically. This book is so good, okay? I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. So when it comes to Last Sacrifice, I feel like Rochelle Mead has done a perfect job of storytelling, especially, you know, with the whole Vampire Academy series. She knows how to develop characters, she knows how to give them quirks, she knows how to make them feel as real as possible. I love this book so much, and I love Rose. Rose is my favorite. I love Adrian, I love Dimitri, I love Lisa. I love the friendships, and I cannot wait to read Bloodlines. And the only reason why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars and not 5 out of 5 stars is because it wasn't my favorite in the series. I feel like some of the other books are, you know, have better stories, but like honestly, they cannot all be the same. And so the ending was a bit lacking, but it's fine. I'm gonna read Bloodlines. That's how I'm comforting myself. And at the end of the day, it's just a really great series. And the last book I've read is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Now this book is strange. I cannot review it. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars, even though it was good. And it's about this boy who gets a babysitter who's actually a worm from his foot, and she's a monster and she tries to kill him. So he goes back running to this girl who was with him when he got this monster, and this girl basically thinks the pond is an ocean So this is the quickest summary I'm gonna give you. It's a weird story, but you should read it to know what I'm talking about, because I did not sum it up perfectly, but it's interesting. Yeah. Honestly, I thought it was enjoyable. It was nicely written and it was a quick read. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you can give it a thumbs up, click the notification bell, subscribe, whatever. And yeah, see you next time.